The content you're about to enjoy comes from the archives of The Best You. We're devoted to the very best in personal development. With a magazine and resources dedicated to inspiring and changing people's lives, at The Best You, we work with the world's leading writers and trainers on the evolution of the self, and people whose journeys have been affected by their work and words. For more information, go to www.thebestyou.co.
Hey everyone, it's Bernardo Moya here, founder of The Best You, author of The Question. And I'm very excited and delighted to have here today my friend Jonathan Chase. Hey, John, how are you?
Hi, Bernardo. I'm absolutely fabulous, actually. I've just got a delivery space on Sainsbury's online. That's the first time since the shutdown.
Oh, well, good for you. That's worth a lot of money. Let me do a very quick introduction for those of you in our NLP community or on the Best You community that don't know Jonathan, and I would be surprised if you don't, because, he's been around for a few years, as he will acknowledge himself.
Careful.
He's an award-winning hypnotist and mentalist, best-selling author, non-executive director and brain trainer of thousands over the last 4 decades. Jonathan has massive experience in helping successful people, find their mojo, build a legacy and enhance the skills to make an even bigger impact. And obviously, within these 40 years is massive experience. John, great to have you here. Thank you so much.
I'm very excited to be here. I really am.
Brilliant. Well, look, the objective, obviously, of these interviews that I do, which I use for my podcast, and I also use, and I'm sharing now, obviously, live in our isolation period at the different Facebook groups that we have, is obviously to create awareness of people that are, making a difference, and not only making a difference, are standing out. I share this quite frequently that when I was thinking of a brand, and what we could call, what I could call it. Well, I was thinking, would the average you be appealing and interesting to people? And obviously not. Would the crap you be appealing? No. So we went for the best you, because it's something that we all say, we want to become the best version of ourselves. But for me, it was always important about working with the best. I think in a world, in a digital world now, especially when everyone's online and there's so much out there, I wanted to create a platform that really worked with the best and people that are extremely knowledgeable. NLP is based on modeling excellence and modeling and learning from the best. So for me, when I put these expos together and I've had the opportunity to have so many people come forward, I am in a position where I can obviously, understand and appreciate who's making a difference. And I've got to say, you've done some fantastic work, some phenomenal work for so many years. And you are, without a doubt, one of the leaders, if not one of the top leaders in the industry. So I want to congratulate you first on a phenomenal career. There's your award that I'm giving you right now, because you've done a great job, Jonathan.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I've been around a bit. Yeah. I was actually the parliamentary liaison officer on the British Council of Professional Stage Hypnotists when Paul joined way back in the 90s.
Paul McKenna.
Yeah, and I've been on there for quite some time, and of course he was the young upstart then. Still is.
So let me ask you, tell me about your early years. How did you get on the path, path that you've been on for quite some time? What did you have a before and after? Was there a turning point that put you on what you're doing now? Can you share some of your, to put things in perspective of how you got to what you're doing today?
Do you know, people who write speaker scripts absolutely hate me because I had no moment of epiphany whatsoever at all in my life. I was born with a muscular dystrophy that gets worse as you get older. I'm now a full-time wheelchair user, but when I was a kid, I was just a clumsy kid, One thing I've always had is the capability of getting other people to do stuff for me rather than doing it myself. I used to put that down to being lazy, but it was sort of self-preservation anyway, a type of resilience, if you like. But My childhood was way back in the coal mining fields in Staffordshire. My mum didn't do factory work while I was growing up until I was about 9. So she used to do hairdressing in our kitchen. You know, I was high as a kite on perming fluid for the first 9 years of my life. And the house was always full of women, which, that was scary. But I drifted into show business. My mum was musical mad, and she always, every year, used to take us to the London Palladium. And when I was 10, I saw Tommy Steele singing on stage, and I thought, I want to do that, you know. But the trouble is I can't sing, can't dance, can't do stand-up anymore. I can't tell jokes. So that left magic and something like a speciality act, like juggling or, you know. And I came across Hypnosis at the Hotel de France in Jersey. I was actually a stage manager and sound engineer, and I was watching a comedian, one of the Grumbleweeds, who were a huge band at the time, and Robin was hypnotising somebody, and I said, can I do that? He said, yeah, it's easy, you just do this, do that, do that. And about 10 minutes later, I tapped him on the shoulder. I said, right, Robin, I've got the barman on the floor. What the hell do I do now? So I came into hypnosis completely by chance, found I had a skill for it, and then I came into the personal development and the NLP side of it, if you like, because in the United Kingdom, stage hypnotists have to be licensed by the local authority to do performance. So to make it easy to get a license, I thought, well, I better do some of this hypnotherapy stuff, you know. And I went to train. I trained for 3 weeks, 3 whole weeks with Wilf Proudfoot. A lot of people have never heard of Wilf, but at the time he was the top hypnosis trainer in the 80s up in Scarborough, in the UK, and XMP, shop owner and that sort of thing. And Wilf had just really brought NLP sort of over to Britain, and a lot of Gil Boyne's hypnosis stuff. And I thought, this is good. I can use this. So that's when I segued into the personal development thing, because it was something to do when you were, to use the show business term, resting, you know. So it was just something that I did almost on the side. So, and it's, you know, I've never thought of myself as a motivator or I'm definitely not a therapist. You know, I don't think people are broken. I think they're just badly programmed. And then when I went to work with Wilf, I saw my first videos of Richard Bandler and John Grinder doing their stuff, and thought, oh, that's good. That's good. I like that. And I recognise the showmanship in certainly in Richard, you know.
Well, and that's the thing. The thing is kind of when you guys started, you know, in the, what years was it? The 70s?
80s.
70s to the 80s?
80s.
Yeah,
I was nursing. I was actually a nurse in the 70s, but that's a different story.
But so when you started in the 80s, obviously, you know, this was, it's 80s, yeah. So when you started in the 80s, you know, kind of, this was like, you know, well, probably looked at you like Martians, all of you, you know, kind of like hypnosis now is so common. And although a lot of people still don't understand the power of hypnosis and how we're being hypnotized all the time. And this must have been, you know, interesting, but very challenging to be able to first of all, to talk about it, but then for people to buy into it, you know, because it was just very strange, wasn't it, for people who'd never come across it before?
Do you know, in my experience, it hasn't much changed. If you say I'm a hypnotherapist now, the reaction to therapy has changed a lot. You know, people go, oh, that's interesting. But even now, if you say, I'm a hypnotist, especially if you've got a reputation of being a stage hypnotist, one reaction is, the most common reaction is fear, and the other reaction is fascination. So they either go, don't look in his eyes, which is the title of my second book, and or they say, well, yeah. Well, so what do you do? Can you make people look like chickens, and stuff like that? Which, of course, we can. That's fairly easy. But what a lot of people don't realise about hypnosis is that when I tell my Robin Colville story, people say, "Oh, it can't be that easy. It can't be that simple." And then you get people coming along to a weekend training, and they go, "God, it's that simple and it's that easy." Yes, it is, because you're a hypnotist. I'm a hypnotist. You know that. You know that everybody's a hypnotist. It's just that some of us do it quite well because we do it professionally, and we do it all the time. But everybody gives themselves self-suggestion all the time. Everybody's confirming who they are all the time at a subconscious level. I'm an old-fashioned stage hypnotist, so I use subconscious rather than the NLP unconscious. And some of the places I used to work, believe me, in the 80s and the 90s, I've seen a lot of unconscious people. And they tend not to be very active. So I prefer to use the term subconscious to describe what we're doing. But I don't think it's changed awfully much. The personal development movement has grown a lot. People still understand what personal development. But in the UK, I can ask, usually if I've got 30 people in a weekend course, I can ask who's heard of Tony Robbins, and you still only get 6 or 7 of the people in the room put their hand up. It's not... We get blind, don't we? People who are working in the business, we just assume that everybody knows what we know and knows who we know, But...
And I agree with you. I think sometimes, for me, it's the same. With NLP, you get a lot of people, quite rightly, that don't necessarily know what it is. But my question to you, because I know there's a lot of people that are listening, because obviously this is the best you and the expert community.
Yes.
So people are obviously passionate, interested in personal and professional growth. So obviously they have or are aware of hypnosis to a degree and NLP. But do you feel, because for me in particular, I always say this with a lot of respect and love, but if I come across a coach or a trainer or a therapist that doesn't know NLP or is not aware of NLP or even worse, have never heard of NLP, for me, and I'm a non-judgmental individual, I feel that they have some skills that are missing, okay? I think, I know the power of NLP. I know how powerful it is. But I also think, and also because obviously hypnosis is such an important part of NLP, don't you think it's the same as well? If you consider yourself a coach or a therapist or a trainer, in whatever degree or level, if you're trying to motivate people, don't you think it's essential to understand and know hypnosis as well?
If you're interested in finding your true purpose, if you're interested in finding your legacy, if you're interested in growing, if you are sick and tired of reading books that don't help you, haven't helped you, or are not helping you, or attending courses and seminars that haven't really had an impact in your life, I invite you to read my book, The Question, Find Your True Purpose, out now. For more information, go to www.thequestion.co. If you're interested in working with me, contributing, speaking at any of our many events, partnering, or licensing The Best You, for more information, go to www.thebestyou.co.
I think it's essential to grasp the principles and to get past a lot of the and I know that there's a lot of dogma that has been scientifically, neurologically proved to be rubbish, and Whereas somebody, say, like Richard or John, might turn around and say, right, okay, we'll restructure what we're teaching, we restructure what we're learning because we've learned something new. There's a huge group of people who just endlessly spew out whatever it was that they were told, and they're not paying attention. And yes, I do think that you do really have to know what's going on and what's going on now. I mean, neuroscience is just expanding faster than we can even think about it. You know, it's ridiculous. And that has to be taken into account. That's why when you're teaching communication skills and when you're teaching people how to use their subconscious, you've got to take on board the new information that we've got. NeuroLinguistic Programming, yes. I wonder whether that should be changed, to neurology leverage productively, or so that we can actually see what's going on. There are a lot of different coaches out there now. In my day, I did my first NLP, as I said, with Wilf Proudfoot, and then I did, I don't know whether it was the first, it might not have been, but it was McKenna Breen that I did my NLP training with. So I think is that slightly before your time?
It was just before my time, yeah.
Yeah. So, a lot's changed. A lot's changed in NLP, as you very well know. I mean, I talk to people who will go back on an NLP training 5 years after they did the first one, and they've learned so much more and so much new stuff, because there's a lot of new stuff to learn. That's why I think the coaches need to be on top. There's a phrase that made me cringe the first time I read it, but I can understand it now. It's a technology term, and it's called upskilling, where you're constantly learning. I'm very lucky, Bernardo. I think we both are, because we're both students of human nature, which means that schools are never shut. It doesn't matter what we're doing or where we are learning from the results of what we're applying and what people are learning around us. And I think that's important. Coaching is going to change again after this. There's no doubt about that in my mind.
So let me ask you, because obviously we might have some listeners that aren't familiar with hypnosis. What are the principles of hypnosis, and how can someone, because you're saying that people can learn it quite quickly, but what are the principles of hypnosis in order for people to kind of step into it, tap into it, or experience it?
I'm not going to go down the old route of, you're experiencing it all the time. You're always in a hypnotic state, only the level varies, because I don't believe that's true. I believe hypnosis, as Baird coined the phrase, is a conversation between two people where one person's subconscious mind is dominant, where their imagination is dominant, and where the other person is directing what's going on there. If we use the word manipulation, people go, "Wah!" So let's say they are psychologically directing what's going on, which is what happens on stage. There's absolutely no doubt about it. People come up and they are imagining something so well, it actually becomes your reality. And that's the true hypnosis. Hypnosis is natural, but it's got nothing to do with reading a book and becoming fascinated. When you become most hypnotized is when your emotions just take over completely. When you're in love, when you're in lust, when you're angry, when you're saying the things that your bright 9-year-old subconscious mind takes over, and you think, "Oh, why did I say that? That was so childish. Oh my God, who said that?" Well, that's the little person that lives inside you. And when that person's in charge, that's when you're hypnotized. To get that, we do what we call an induction. That's basically getting somebody to imagine something so well and so strongly. At the expo, I did I did my usual demonstration of how this can be done without trance, and I had a young guy on stage with me and stuck his arm out and made it go stiff, which was something I came up with back in the 1970s, and everybody was aghast that he hadn't been swinging watch hypnotized, but he could not bend his arm, you know. But we go through that all the time. And the principle of that is a little bit of magic that we call suggestion, where we induce a thought or a sensation or an action in a receptive person without their conscious mind being able to override or even noticing that that's happened. Yeah. And that is hypnosis. That's the principle of hypnosis. I think that comes with, and it really makes me cringe at some of the hypnosis courses I see, especially the ones that are just written courses, you know, the home study courses thing, that they don't really get the grasp of how powerful that is. Because if you can take a phobia away, if you can get somebody to lose a phobia after 30 years, you can damn well give them one. You know, that's fairly simple to do. And people will say, oh, you can't be forced to do anything that goes against your deeply held morals, beliefs or principles. That's what I say on stage. So I ask for people to come up on stage who aren't sure about their morals, beliefs or principles.
And there's a lot
I know that they're going to be the easiest ones to manipulate.
I was going to say that there's quite a few of those. I've got a friend of mine. He says,
yeah, absolutely. All of us.
I've got a friend of mine. He's sorry to interrupt you, but I've got a friend of mine. He's actually he's a publicist, and he says, "Listen, I've got morals, and if you don't like these morals, I've got other morals." Anyway, carry on.
Yeah, well, that's it. You know, people. If you put people in the right emotive scenario, you will do anything. You know, so if you say to yourself, "Well, I can't do that," then maybe you can't, but you can find a way around it. I don't know if you were watching it, but Darren Brown did a wonderful program where he actually got a guy to point a gun. It got blanks in it, to point a gun at Stephen Fry and shoot him on stage, which I would happily do with a real one. But you know, he's one of those guys. You like him or you don't, you know. No, that's a joke, by the way. I love you, Stephen.
Oh, yeah. That's a joke,
yeah.
By the
way. But what a lot of people missed was that the actual suggestion was Stephen Fry's the target. Now, the guy had been subconsciously trained to shoot at a target. He didn't think he was shooting at Stephen Fry. He thought he was shooting at a target.
Mm.
So if you change the scenario around enough, and if you get somebody to imagine something strong enough that it becomes their reality, then they're living that reality. And sadly, we see that all the time in our business, because I know that when we first met, which was about 5 years ago at one of the lads' weekends.
I think that's about Paul's and Richard's Get the Life You Want.
Yeah, Paul and Richard's weekend thing. And there was a lot of people there that I was talking to were running that subconscious pattern that I can't, you know. And how do they do this and how do I do that? Well, you just do it. On the other hand, as you know, I am a wheelchair user. I'm a realist. I have to be pragmatic. I have to get up every morning and look for alternative ways of doing things rather than just a positive way of doing things, because otherwise I'd never get anything done. Do you understand that? Mm. One of my favourite quotes is from Stella Young, unfortunately, she's no longer with us. She would have made a wonderful guest. But Stella had got cerebral palsy. She was a wheelchair user, and she's got a wonderful TEDx talk called "I Am Not Your Inspiration, Thank You Very Much." And it's not as belligerent as it sounds. But she said a wonderful thing. The trouble with positive thinking is you can smile all day at a set of stairs. It will not turn into a ramp.
Yeah.
So, sometimes practical thinking has to come into play as well.
Yeah.
And when you look at hypnosis from a purely practical point of view, you realise just how much it's going on all the time. The current situation, the current shutdown situation, is a massive mind manipulation that you've got to applaud, because people are overriding all sorts of emotions that they're not feeling comfortable with, and still following the directions, if you like. It's manipulation, but it's good manipulation for the whole to benefit from. Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you more about kind of the current situation now afterwards, but I just wanted to take you on. You explained and described hypnosis so well, and obviously kind of where it is. But at the end of the day, when we look at a lot of the situations that people believe to be true, and whatever that might be, which sometimes unfortunately is detrimental, limiting beliefs that people have as far as, hey, I can't, I'm scared of flying, or I'm a phobic of snakes, or whatever it is. What a lot of people don't realize is that, it is, and I know some people might think that they maybe were born, with it. But the fact is, when you're a baby, you don't cry, and the first thing your first words are, I don't want to fly. That's not what you say. It's the fear that you get at some point in your life. And people sometimes don't really think they appreciate and understand that, this limiting belief, whatever that new reality is, happens quickly, instantly, within minutes. So quite rightly, with hypnosis, what we do and what we're capable of doing is obviously getting rid of that limiting belief also within minutes. And you've seen it. Obviously, you've been doing it all your life, helping people with all sorts of, in so many different kinds of ways. And I've seen it also live and working with clients where, all of a sudden, within minutes, they're back on a lift or they're in a box, overcoming their phobias. So why and how quickly can these limiting beliefs be dealt with hypnosis? Again, because a lot of people don't really...
At the speed of thought, my friend.
At the speed of thought, exactly, yeah.
If you're watching this, try this. Close your eyes, Bernardo.
Okay, I'll close my eyes.
Yeah, close your eyes and be on the planet Mars.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're there. You can feel that the wind's very cold, but the planet's very dry, and you can see the red dust flying. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm struggling breathing though.
Yeah. Okay. Open your eyes. Open your eyes. Yeah, you got there at the speed of thought. It normally takes 9 months.
Yeah. Yeah.
As fast as we can go at the moment. Yeah. There's this there is a clash for me between hypnosis and what hypnosis is and psychotherapy with relaxation that has come to be called hypnosis.
Okay.
Yeah. And the two don't really... The psychotherapy has come from the world of psychology, especially from Freud and that sort of thing, who, by the way, was quite a bad hypnotist. He left the school of Nantes. Don't get me started on the history of hypnosis because I'm a buff, and I've got first editions up here of some books, but. There's a clash between what I call relaxer therapy, which takes 40 minutes before people are breathing at the right rate, and that sort of thing, and somebody like me who will come up and get you to lose your memory and forget what your name is, and at the same time, I did an interview for Palm Radio down here in the English Riviera, which today actually is very, very sunny, and it's a lovely day, but we can't go out except to go and pick the shopping up after this. But I was doing a show there, and they set me up with two DJs and the weather girl to hypnotise before I went on, and I took them in. If anybody wants to listen to that, it's Jonathan Chase Hypnotises Palm Radio on YouTube. If they're watching this on YouTube, if you go to my channel, which is youtube.com/John Chase, Jon Chase, and Palm Radio, if you put it in there. And I hypnotised the guy, and while I was talking to him, he told me that he was scared of lollipop sticks. Now, you're not going to find that unusual, because I know that being in the world that we're both in, we realise that people can be scared of just about anything. But lollipop sticks, for God's sake. And as part of the wake-up procedure, after I'd turned them into the Muppets, and the other, Chris, who was doing the interview, he wanted to interview them as the Muppets, and then they were the Red Arrows pilots, because the Red Arrows were in Torbay that weekend. And Ben turned around to me and he said, I do have a phobia of lollipop sticks. I'd love to get rid of it. So as part of the wake-up, I just simply said, and when you open your eyes, you'll no longer be scared of lollipop sticks. That was it. That was the whole thing. 3 weeks later, I got a phone call from Ben. He said, Jonathan, could you come in and do another show with us? I said, yeah, what do you want it on? He said, weight loss, mate. He says, I can't stop eating lollipops. He said, they're lovely, aren't they? He said, I didn't realise what I've been missing for, you know? And a lot of people would want to analyse how he got that fear. I just accept it. If somebody says to me, I'm scared of flying, I'm not surprised. We were not born to be in a metal tunnel weighing thousands of tons, 30,000 feet up in the air. We'd have had wings if that had have happened, you know, just the same as we weren't born with a chimney, and we weren't born with breathing apparatus to go down in the sea. Something should be scary, you know. I mean, an Australian friend of mine has got a great brown living by his gate that he walks past every day. You know, it's one of the most poisonous snakes in the world. It's massive. It's God knows how long. And he almost treats it like a pet, you know. He should be terrified of that bloody thing, because one bite and he's dead. And that's the other side of hypnosis. You know, you've got to be careful what you do with it. Maybe sometimes you could go too far. But I think, yeah, the human brain reprograms very, very quickly.
If you're interested in watching the video content of this interview and many others, or interested in learning from world leaders and teachers, go to www.thebestyou.online.
And where do you think, I mean, talking about neuroscience before, and obviously kind of the reality that we have now, I know you joined me in some of the previous chats that we've had. And I was saying to our fellow colleagues, you know, trainers and therapists, and there's going to be a lot of work for us. There's going to be a lot of work for us because, you know, a lot of people are going to be looking for things online. There's going to be a lot of new phobics, a lot of people that are stressed out and overwhelmed. So what do you think will happen from here onwards? Where do you think, and I'm talking from a mindset point of view, you know, what will this bring? And then where do you see us? And I'm saying us, you know, kind of like this is a massive generalization. Where do you see us kind of professionals? How, and if any way, do you think that we can or should or will step up our game?
I'm going to disappoint you. I have no idea whatsoever at all. None. I haven't got the foggiest. I've been on the internet, you know, since 1985. I joined Usenet on an old IBM desktop, which was like the size of a small car, but that somebody gave me. And there has been a crawl towards digital, towards doing things like this. Now, at the moment, I believe you're in LA, yeah?
I'm in LA, yes.
You're in LA. I'm in Devon, in the southwest of England, and Jane and I were talking the other day. My partner in crime and life, Jane, and she said, "Do you know where we're living?" I said, "Where?" And she said, "We're living in our science fiction." And that is happening now. You know, we were reading stories about video calls across the world when we were like 15, 16. And I'm 65 now, so I'm slightly older than you know. But not much, but slightly older. But, you know, I've no idea. It depends on people's resilience. And I think there is a lot of resilience work coming up for people like us who have been lucky enough to be given a resilience that we can pass on to others. Yeah?
Yeah, I think so, and I agree. I think in particular that my feeling is that I think obviously with a lot of what's going on, you know, they're feeding us information as and when is needed. You know, they don't want to give us a whole picture straight away. I mean, I was one that, you know, relatively thought, hey, you know, it'd be a month and 2 months and we'll be back out. So I think they're feeding us information slowly but surely. I definitely think that there's going to be an after, you know, the new where, you know, kind of obviously relationships and, you know, being in close distances and stuff are going to take a little bit of time. I also believe I think there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be, and I mean this with love, I think they're going to be in kind of a bad way for quite some time because, you know,
yes.
There's so many, I mean, you know, I was just thinking yesterday, you look at it, you're thinking, casinos are closed, you know, there's no football going on, there's no basketball, there's just so many activities.
I miss my football.
So do I. There's so many things that are not happening, and obviously all the revenue that's created around that, which we're talking about billions and billions of dollars, you know, around the world every single day, is obviously going to have an impact. So I'm just reaching out to anyone and everyone that is listening and watching, is that, you know, seek help, ask for help, you know. And one of the things that I really believe is that, you know, that there's a lot of generosity. You've been very generous with a lot of the things that you've written in your blogs and your articles and your content and everything you put out there. But there's a lot of people like you that do a lot of that. And I think people need to cling on to this, and also need to cling on to kind of, you know, learning new things and using whatever tools are at their disposal. And I obviously understand the power of hypnosis and how, you know, with, you know, a good hypnotic session and with the right person, you know, something that was or is to believe true can change, you know. So I that would be just my recommendation of what I kind of see is going to happen. And then, one day at a time, I suppose.
We need to get people to upskill, and now is the time where it's plugging a book, I suppose, because I changed the title of a book slightly from one of my books, and that's How to Make Friends with Yourself and Influence People. Because if you're friends with yourself, you'll automatically start to influence people because you become more confident. You know, you become more resilient. And I think if you waste this time waiting to see what happens instead of taking on some skills that you didn't have before or some new skills, I'm being heavily mentored by David Ralph at the moment in podcasting, and which is a fairly new skill for me. I dipped my toes 10 years ago and didn't like it much because I couldn't see the audience, but I'm getting there now. I'm getting there with it now. And I'm doing Zoom rooms instead when I'm doing a podcast. So I've got people there with me, friends there with me, so that I'm recording the audio and I can see the reaction of people. And that helps me a lot. But that's a new skill that I didn't have before, and one that I know is going to be a lot more in demand. I do think the way people work is going to change dramatically now, because people are discovering that they don't need to do the 40 hours a week, the 60 hours a week, the 90 hours a week. You can come online, you can do an hour's work online and have just as much impact in the world and earn just as much money, gifting your skills to people that way and giving your advice to people that way. And I think that's going to be a big change. But what I think it behoves people like us, Bernardo, who are used to doing it and used to being in the public eye, to helping other people realise that, you're not ugly. You don't come across as stupid. It's okay to go, it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to press the wrong button now and again, and it doesn't matter what your business is, it's okay to screw up, because if you've got the resilience, you can find that you bounce back. Yeah. Yeah. And I know we both have instances where we've had to do that. I mean, I haven't mentioned dying when I was 48 and actually waking up.
You look quite good, Jonathan, for someone that died at the age of 48, I've got to say.
Sorry?
I said you look quite good for someone who died at the age of 48.
Yeah. I bounced back. My heart stopped. My heart stopped twice, and I ended up having quadruple heart surgery and waking up in an ICU. So my heart's going out to people who are suffering with the COVID thing, because I know what that situation's like. That's not nice. Yeah. But even then, even when life is throwing the good for the roses stuff at you, you can wipe it off and you can get on with it and say, right. I think the wonderful thing about people now and the gig economy and that sort of thing is that people have got a lot more flexibility than we had before, So people are thinking now, or should be thinking now, how can we do this? How can we do this, rather than, I wonder if I can do this.
Well, I mean, look at it. I mean, it's everything. Obviously, work. It was unprecedented. Everyone wanted to be working from an office and commuting and meeting each other. Now, everyone has to work from home. I mean, even with the schooling. I mean, you could never convince these schools to teach online and teach them new technologies and things like that. Well, hey, it's happening now. So no, absolutely. And
Bill Gates did see it happening, a few years ago. Yeah. And so did Steve Jobs.
Yeah, and I think this is one of the things that I was sharing the other day is that it is so important to and in this time with so much information, with everyone online, and I mean everyone and their cats and dogs and little goldfish, everyone's online. It is so important that you really focus on what is it you're going to be learning, who are you going to be listening to, because there's just too much information, and I mean that with love, So yeah. I was saying the other day, I had a webinar interview with Jeff Hoffman, the billionaire owner of Priceline, and there was only a few people on it. I thought, oh my God, he's a billionaire. I mean, if this man is speaking, there's obviously, we have to listen to him. And that's kind of what, I mean, so you talk about Bill Gates and obviously, bringing this up. So learn from the best, look at what they're doing, look at, the companies that are able to transition quickly, look at the companies that are, making money now. And as you quite rightly pointed out, take advantage of this time straight away. Jonathan, we're gonna finish in a minute. Is there anything else you want to add? And I'm very excited to have all your content now on the Best You Online. We will be sharing.
That's exciting.
Yeah, I'm very excited. So because obviously, we want to be associated with the best. So we reached out to Jonathan very quickly, and we're very, very excited to have you there. So, is there anything else you would like to share with us?
Just don't worry. Seems so trite, but there's a guy in this country is 100 years old, and he's just raised over £10 million for the NHS by walking up and down his garden. online. You know,
Okay.
he's lived through 2 world wars. He's lived through anthrax, Spanish flu, HIV, West Nile disease. You know, when you look at it, he's actually lived through things like polio and TB. When he was a lad, you know, they were killing people massively all over the place. One of 2 things is going to happen. You're either going to die, which you're going to do anyway. So, you know, I'm a stoic when it comes to that. You know, after being in a situation where your heart stops, you sort of realise that actually it is going to happen. You know, so it's no good worrying about that one. It's going to come when
it doesn't help your immune system.
Yeah,
does it?
Or you're going to survive. And when you survive, you know, it doesn't matter how bad life seems to be. It's never as bad as it looks.
Yeah.
And I would like to leave people with one message: keep your sense of humour. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if you look at it, you know, yes, it's horrible, it's terrible, but there's lots of stuff to celebrate and to be grateful for. And oh God, that sounds trite. Don't know, that's not me normally. Get on with it, you know. Enjoy yourself. And I love one phrase that I picked up. I can't remember where I picked it up from, and that is, whenever possible, alleviate someone's concern. And if you can alleviate someone else's concern, that bounces back to you. And that gets paid back to you time and time again, which is what we try and do. You know that there is always an edge of humour in my blogs. There's always a edge of humour, whatever it is I try and do. You know, I try and bring something humorous into it because, you know, we need the dose. We need the dopamine, the oxytocin, the serotonin, the endorphins. You know, we need that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's great advice. Absolutely agree with it. And I love the story of the 100-year-old man, and good for him, teaching us that, hey, you know, we can still make a massive difference at whatever age we're at. Jonathan, thank you so much.
£10 million, the generosity of people is gobsmacked.
That was amazing. That's amazing. And there is money out there. Anyway, so thank you so much. Take care. Stay safe. All the best.
Thank you for having me on so long.
My pleasure. No, thank you. And thank you, everyone that was listening, watching here today. I'm delighted and excited to have talked to Jonathan. And please reach out to us at thebestyou.co or thebestyou.online if you're interested in looking for some content, or you want to follow me, Bernardo-Moya.com. Jonathan, where can they find you? JonathanChase.com. Perfect. Great. Thank you so much, everyone. Take care. Stay safe. All the best.
Bye, Bernardo.
Bye.
Bye.
For more information, go to www.thebestyou.co.